Hello, everyone, and welcome to Alumni Talks. My name is Zornica, and I will be the moderator of this online session on behalf of the MBA selection platform Unimi. Today's webinar is all about the residential MBA programs at the Samuel Curtis Johnson Graduate School of Management at Cornell University, an Ivy League university with its main campus located in Ithaca at the heart of New York State. The SC Johnson Business School itself is highly appreciated for its community-oriented culture and top-quality education, including 3 full-time STEM designated residential MBA programs. I assume that since you're attending this webinar, you're already familiar with the Cornell Johnson and its MBA programs. Yet, just in case, I have pasted in the chat box the official webpage of Johnson's residential programs, as well as the school's profile on Unimi, where you can do quick tests and see how the school's culture fits your own values and how its MBA offering matches your individual criteria. Let us now welcome our panelists. Eddie Asbie, Executive Director of Admissions and Scholarships at Cornell Johnson, and 2 of Johnson's MBA alumni, Stephanie Greenleaf and Colin Kelly. Both graduated in the year 2015. Eddie will start the webinar soon with telling us more about the different MBA programs at Johnson and what makes them stand out. Then we will continue with the panel discussion in which Colin and Stephanie will share with us more about their academic experience and how it contributed to their personal and professional development. Your questions are more than welcome. So if you have any, please type them down either in the chat box or the Q&A section anytime during the webinar, and we will take the time to address them at the end of the session. Now, I would like to give the word to Eddie to present himself and the Johnson's MBA programs.
Great. Thank you so much, Zornica. It's a pleasure to have you all on this call today. And of course, really excited as you think about an MBA and of course, think about Johnson as a school moving forward. So throughout this presentation today, I will spend about 15 minutes or so, just highlighting Johnson, what I feel is also sets us apart as a community. And of course, we will jump into more of a panel discussion with our alums as well, hearing about their experience. And of course, towards the end, once again, welcome your questions. Before we get started, I do want our alums to briefly introduce themselves. Once again, you'll learn a lot more about them, but we will start with you, Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind just welcoming or introducing yourself, and then we'll hand it over to Colin. So Stephanie, thanks for joining me.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Stephanie. I graduated from Cornell in 2015. Right now, I'm a senior product manager at Boston Scientific, and I live in sunny Minneapolis, Minnesota. On the personal front, I live with my husband and our 2 kiddos who are 4 and 2, and happy to be here.
Thank you, Stephanie. Colin.
Thanks, Eddie and Stephanie. My name is Colin Kelly. I'm also a 2015 graduate with Stephanie. Currently run a hedge fund, equities and equity derivatives from North Carolina, which actually is sunny, as you can see over my shoulder.
Great. Thank you so much, Colin. All right. So I'm going to take this time just to share my screen. Once again, a few slides that I have just to kind of highlight who we are as a community here at Johnson. In the meantime, I would encourage you to just use the chat feature just to highlight or just to let us know exactly where you're logging in from. So of course, we know that remotely is where many people have been working, but once again, just curious to know where you all are calling in. All right. Well, as you are typing away, letting us know where you are calling from, I am calling from Ithaca, New York, which is located, of course, in central New York, and once again, representing Cornell University, our residential 1-year and our 2-year MBA program here in Ithaca. As mentioned, my name is Eddie Asbie, the Executive Director of Admissions. But of course, I wanted to start off with talking about why Cornell. And there are so many, I know that there's so many great schools out there. I'm sure that there's many options that you're looking at right now. But as I start to think about Cornell, these are some of the things that come to mind. One, the worldwide recognition and of course the overall brand. We know that many of you are looking for a great institution that will not only provide strong networks, but also that Ivy League education, knowing that you are going to be taught by some of the best and the brightest. But also when I think about Cornell, when I think about our MBA program in particular, our program gives you the opportunity and the flexibility to really be able to tap into so many different other areas here at Cornell, where many of these programs are top ranked programs. So whether your MBA, you're looking to focus more, let's say on the hospitality side, industrial labor relations, engineering, or the healthcare field, our MBA program not only gives you the opportunity of getting the business fundamentals, but also to understand other elements in various other areas. But also, once again, being taught by some of the best and the brightest. And I'm sure Stephanie and Colin can talk to you more about their experience with our faculty members, but many of them are coming from the industry, helping our students in the recruiting process using their personal networks, but ultimately here to guide you throughout your year or 2 years throughout your experience in the program. Of course, a strong alumni presence, which once again, by having 2 alums here today, we can talk about that a little bit further. But then the last thing is really our location, which I believe our location is a hidden gem located in central New York, located in the heart of the Finger Lakes region, but also an amazing college town for you to consider. So as I had mentioned before, I represent the 1-year and the 2-year MBA program. I'm going to highlight both of the programs, but starting with the 2-year MBA program itself, we get asked all the time, which program should I apply to? Which one's a better fit for me? With our 2-year program, this year we enrolled a class of 304 in the program, where typically in the 2-year program, we may see someone who is either earlier on in their career, we may see someone who's looking to be a career switcher and looking to tap into other areas, someone who's looking for 2 years of networking, that internship opportunity itself, and of course, much more to it. Pretty standard with our 2-year MBA program, that first semester is where you are really building your business foundation, but also really, getting your feet, wet into the whole networking aspect of business school and getting to know your classmates. So you are going through your core courses, your stats, accounting, your finance type courses that will help guide you in the beginning steps of your journey. In the spring semester, you actually go through what we call our Immersion Learning program, which I will highlight shortly, but also continue to go through more of the recruiting process, leadership opportunities, and then of course, completing a couple of your core courses. As I had mentioned before with the 2-year program, it does give you that opportunity of experience in that internship. But as you go into your second year, that's where you will also see more of that flexibility in our program. And whether that is taking elective courses at other programs here at Cornell, whether it's taking advantage of international opportunities, whether it's taking advantage of our Cornell Tech campus, which I will also highlight, which is a program that bridges the gap between the digital economy and business. And then ultimately, having opportunities of even exchange opportunities. So that is just kind of a brief overview of that 2-year program. But once again, I will say, as you start thinking about which program makes sense, make sure that you continue to reach out to members of our community to learn more. Regarding our 1-year program, our 1-year program has a different format. It's at an accelerated pace. It goes from May to the following May. So it is a 12-month program. And to qualify for our one-year program, there are certain certifications that you must have or an advanced degree to even qualify for the program. I would say if this is something that you're interested in, there is a one-year eligibility check link on our website that you can fill out. And of course, members of our community or of our admissions team will reach out to let you know if you qualify for the one-year program or not. With the one-year program, in this past year, we enrolled a class of 58 students from various backgrounds and various areas throughout the world. Typically for the one-year program, we will see someone who is either more advanced within their career. Maybe you're looking to stay in the same industry, return to a family business. Maybe it is staying in the same industry or same function. But keep in mind with the one-year program in particular, it does not have that internship opportunity. So once again, going through the summer core, your accelerated core courses from May to about August. And then once you begin the fall semester and spring semester, you are joining our rising second years from the two-year residential MBA program. As I started thinking about some of the things in our program that really makes us unique, one of the things that I think of is our Immersion Learning program. And our Immersion Learning program happens in the spring semester of your first year. If you're applying to the one-year program, it happens in the spring semester right before you're getting ready to graduate. But it really gives you the opportunity of having that hands-on experience and really being able to take advanced level courses within your particular career path. But also it gives you that opportunity of having that hands-on experience and getting solid feedback from business practitioners within those industries. So to kind of give you a sense of some of the immersions that we offer here at Johnson, there is an immersion within investment banking, strategic product and marketing, digital technology. There is our semester in strategic operations. Once again, the list goes on the various options that we have here. But one of the things that I will say about Cornell and Johnson's program in particular is that the hands-on experience is something that we really pride ourselves on. We want to make sure that, not only are you learning from some of the best and the brightest, but that you're actually out there working on company or visiting companies. You're working on actual projects. And what the immersion is really designed to do is to prepare you for that internship opportunity. So if you think about any of our career switchers out there, once again, I'm sure that you're looking to be, of course, successful in that internship approach. But once again, the immersion is designed to really prepare you for those next steps. As I had mentioned too, there is a Cornell Tech campus that we have located on Roosevelt Island right in New York City. There are a couple opportunities that we present our students for both the one-year as well as the two-year residential program, where you can either take elective courses in the fall semester of the program, or in the spring semester, there are two intensives. There's a FinTech intensive or a digital marketing intensive, where you actually can live in New York City for 7 weeks. To talk about the New York City elective courses itself, this would be an opportunity for you to take up to about 2 elective courses, whether it's focusing on cryptocurrency, design thinking, the digital marketing space. But these courses are offered Fridays and Saturdays, where you would go between Ithaca and New York City to take these courses. Of course, where we are within the world right now, these courses are offered virtually at this time, but we do hope to return back to that in-person study for these fall elective courses. In the spring semester, we give you that opportunity of actually, once again, living on the New York Tech, on the Cornell Tech campus, where you can experience a 7-week solid experience within FinTech or within digital marketing itself. This is where I feel that Johnson gives you the best of both worlds, not only living in Ithaca, but then also having that opportunity of doing the 7-week intensive and then returning back to Ithaca, or 7 weeks in New York City and then continuing the rest of the semester in New York City on the Cornell Tech campus. Once again, this gives you that opportunity of really immersing yourself in the fintech or the digital marketing space, working with our Cornell Tech students, working with entrepreneurs in this space, and then really getting that hands-on experience. Also, I know that when thinking about an MBA, you're not only thinking about coming to a great institution, getting a great education, but I'm sure many of you are also thinking about developing as a leader. So when I think about leadership here at Johnson, we have our 4 C's framework, which focuses on competence, character, compassion, and courage. And these are the 4 C's that we really believe in here at Johnson, and utilize throughout various workshops, various initiatives that we have here, whether it's going through your core team experience. There are other opportunities where you can really develop as a leader, whether it's starting off with our Johnson Outdoor Experience, which happens during orientation, whether it is going through our Leading Teams Practicum with your core team, which I'm sure Stephanie and Colin can talk about their core team experience, where you are put into core teams of, let's say, 4 or 5. And this is your core team that you work with the entire fall semester. Our students will tell you that either they love their core team or they can find their core team to be a challenge, but that's business, and it's ultimately working together as a group to solve various problems, but also to come up with the best solution as well. Of course, there's a list of other opportunities that are available here, but one of the ones that I do want to point out is our Johnson Leadership Fellows, which are our 2nd-year students who are mentors to our incoming MBAs to help them as they go through that core team experience. So, of course, I'm sure we can talk about that a little bit more as our alums come up soon. Just a couple more slides for you, and of course, we will talk more with Stephanie and Colin. But I do want to highlight Ithaca. I'm sure Ithaca, for some of you, may be either a place that you've never heard of, maybe you have been here to visit, but I will say that this is an amazing place to be. We are the largest of the Ivy Leagues, but also this is an amazing college town to be a part of. Here in the area, as I had mentioned before, we are located in central New York. We're about 4 hours north of New York City. We do have an airport here in Ithaca with 3 airlines that are represented here, but also located once again in wine country here in New York State. But also on our campus, there are beautiful waterfalls. If you enjoy hiking and being on the lake, if you're looking for a community that really supports the locally owned businesses, that's what you're going to find here in Ithaca. But also, if you are bringing a family, significant others to business school, Ithaca is also a great family-friendly place to live as well. And my last 2 slides really focuses on admissions, of course, being that I oversee admissions for our residential 1-year and 2-year program. Want to make sure that you are very aware of what our deadlines look like. If our next deadline, which I'm sure many of you are looking at or getting ready to submit, is our January 5th deadline, which I'm really looking forward to seeing those applications come through. If you are applying to the 2-year program, know that there's a January 5th deadline, and then our last deadline would be April 12th. If you're applying to the 1-year program, there's the January deadline, and then we will be accepting applications on a rolling basis up to March 8th. Keep in mind, our 1-year program begins in May, and our 2-year program begins towards the end of August. As you're thinking about your application, I really can't say enough about really giving it some serious thought on one, why an MBA, why you're looking at Johnson, and really how you see yourself being a good fit within that community, as well as what your goals are, etc. Taking your time, putting the best application is so important, as the applicant pool is very competitive, but also we are looking for people who really want to be here. I'm sure you've already seen what our application requirements look like, but what I will say, the first thing that I personally look at in an application is your resume. I do look at that work experience. I'm looking at ways that you have shown career progression, leadership, any accomplishments, any achievements. Keep in mind with your resume, it's not all about the company or the title itself. It also is about the impact that you've made within that organization. So that's something to keep in mind. We do have a goal statement. So hopefully you have really fleshed out what your short-term goals are. If you have a long-term goal, highlighting that as well. But we want to know that you've really thought about your goals, thinking about transferable skills that you have that will help you become successful in this space, and then really being able to outline that as well. Also, there is an optional essay, which the optional essay itself gives you that opportunity to really be able to address any concerns, any red flags that may be in your application, whether it is gaps in your work experience, whether it's regarding your academic performance, whether it's a reason why you may not have your recommender write that letter of recommendation. Once again, any red flags should be used for that optional essay. A list of activities, of course, your letters of recommendation. From the academic side of things, your transcripts. If you decide to take the GMAT or the GRE, submitting the best score. Regarding the test waiver option, so for those of you who may be considering that test waiver option, I will say that the test waiver is not for everyone. When it comes to the waiver itself, you should be confident in your quantitative ability, and most likely that is going to be from your work experience, of course, your academic experience itself. Hopefully your recommenders can highlight that as well. But that is a question in the application that addresses, are you requesting the waiver? Of course, it requires a brief essay, but then once again, we'll be looking at supporting documentation throughout your application to determine if you qualify or not for the waiver. So if you have any questions, of course, please let me know. And then of course, TOEFL or IELTS, if English is not your native language or your medium of instruction was not done in English at the undergraduate level itself. And then the last thing is really your interview. And this is our process is invite only. This is your opportunity to really tell your story, to really tell us exactly why you're a good fit for our program, why an MBA, and of course address any other areas of concerns, if anything. So that is a little bit about our application process. So I hope that that information was really helpful for you. Of course, I do want to transition this conversation, of course, to welcome our alums back as well, to hear more about their story. But of course, in the meantime, here is my personal contact information. I always welcome emails, of course, jumping on a Zoom or a phone call with any questions that you have. But of course, there's also a great admissions team here at Johnson that is also here to assist. So thanks so much for spending the time just to hear a little bit more about Johnson. Of course, I want to welcome Colin and Stephanie back. Thank you both again for joining us. And this is, of course, that opportunity for us to learn more about you, why you chose Johnson, things that you were doing before an MBA, and of course, once again, highlighting once again what you are currently doing. So, of course, Stephanie, I started with you on the introduction. This time, Colin, I am going to have you jump in this time, but Colin, if you wouldn't mind just once again introducing yourself, but maybe going a little bit in depth of what you were doing before business school, why you chose Johnson, and any other additional information that you feel would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Colin Kelly, and graduated in 15 with Stephanie, and run a hedge fund of equities and equity derivatives. Before B school, I came straight out of undergrad, went to a hedge fund, was there for a few years, and had an opportunity to do something different. Went to a bank, and the bank had a holding company that was supposed to be starting a mezz debt fund. So I jumped on the team that was going to be starting the mezz debt fund. And while I was waiting for everything to get done, money to get raised, et cetera, the CEO of the bank passed away. There became a big power struggle internally, and the people who came out on top had no interest in running a mezz debt fund. So I needed to find a new plan. It was just about the right age, made sense for me to do an MBA. Timing wise, it's something that I'd always wanted to do. My parents were both educators, stressed education. So it was something in my mind that was always there, and it just seemed like good timing. Turned out to be very awkward timing because while I was applying to B school, I was approached by another hedge fund that said, "Hey, we heard you're leaving what you're doing. Why don't you come work for us?" And I remember sitting in Eddie's office during my Johnson interview and saying, "Hey, I've got this really awkward update where I just got a new job, even though I'm in the middle of applying to B school." But the guy who was hiring me was 100% supportive, wanted me to go to business school, thought it was a great idea to go get an MBA. So it worked out just fine. In terms of why Cornell, I had a lot of friends who went to big schools in big cities and had a lot of conversations with them about it. I know that I'm an introverted human. And so listening to their stories about how big the school was and how it was great because you didn't have to be super involved. You could just kind of go back into the city and do your own thing. Didn't jive well with me. You know, I have friends in big cities, but I don't have huge networks. And so I wanted to go to a school where I knew I'd be forced to interact with people, be forced to be a part of the community, and the rest of the community would do the same thing. So you build the bonds, the camaraderie just naturally. You have to. Cornell is that, very, very much that. And I also loved the fact that there's all this stuff to do outside. I'm a big outdoor kind of guy. So if you're into fly fishing, there's great landlocked salmon and trout fishing. There's great mountain biking. I tried ice climbing one time. I hated it, but it's available to you. Eddie showed a couple of pictures of some waterfalls. There's this phrase that Ithaca is gorgeous because there's gorgeous carp through the entire town, the entire region, really. Actually, the largest single drop waterfall east of the Mississippi, so taller than Niagara Falls, is in Ithaca. There's just amazing hikes, amazing, beautiful scenery everywhere. And it was pretty easy to fall in love with it.
Great. Thank you so much, Colin. And Stephanie.
Okay, so I'll introduce myself again. Hey, everybody, I'm Stephanie. Right now I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Before business school, I lived in Rochester, Minnesota, which is about an hour and a half south. It's where the Mayo Clinic is located. And before B school, I was the general manager of 2 hotels. And in managing those hotels, I got to rebrand one of the properties and lead a renovation. And as part of that rebranding effort, got to do a lot of just thinking through marketing and trying to sort of solve some of our business challenges, and recognized I really liked marketing and I wanted to pursue a career in that. And legit just like Googled marketing jobs and came across the description of a brand manager at General Mills and realized that's what I really wanted to do. But I needed an MBA to do it. So basically it became my goal to go to business school so that I could pursue a career in marketing and specifically product-centric marketing. I didn't have a business background in terms of education. My undergraduate degree is in public health. My minor was in exercise science. So I had never taken an economics class or anything like that. and had always honestly thought that business school was sort of outside something I was interested in because of what I perceived as like a focus on the finance side of things, perhaps disproportionately. And as I was having those conversations with different schools, I was really interested in schools that had a real focus on leadership and like character building outside of, I think, perhaps my own cliched perception of business school being about like econ only. And so that's one of the things that initially attracted me to Johnson. And then to Colin's point, I was interested in like a smaller town that would have like more of kind of a classic college environment. My undergrad was at GW, George Washington University, which is located in DC and is really integrated in that metropolitan area. And so I was really looking for an experience that was more like classical. And just like Colin, I wanted to, knowing that, you know, when you go to business school, you're maybe in your late 20s, early 30s, you've got your own network. So if you go to a school that's in a place like New York City or another major city like Minneapolis, people kind of retreat to their home lives and their regular friends if it's in a major city where they're already located. So I loved the idea that a town like Ithaca would mean, right, like kind of forces you to be friends with everybody at the school. And I have a lot of fond memories of big house parties and, you know, going to the bar, and you kind of take over the bar with just like your class, because that's how well you get to know each other, and you have like a real collegial collaborative environment where you really get to know the class, because you're truly spending your time both in classes and outside of classes together. And so that's what I was looking for. That's what I got. Yeah.
And if you don't mind, I'd love to add something that I forgot to mention, why Cornell instead of just why a small school. You mentioned the hands-on thing. Having come from a hedge fund, knowing that that's what I wanted to do on the back end, I toured a lot of schools, and a lot of them would kind of say, well, there's like a Bloomberg terminal over here. I don't really know what to do with that. If you tour Sage, you see the Parker Center, the resources that are put in there to allow people to do hands-on work, it's just incredible. So that was huge. And then the other thing, which you briefly touched on, Eddie, is I didn't want to go just do finance. I've been doing finance for years. I felt very comfortable in my finance background. I wanted to go broaden out, and the ability to come to a place like Cornell that has everything. I took classes in the law school. I took classes in the hotel school. I took classes in urban and city planning. Stephanie and I are hazard analysis and critical control point certified for both canning and juices. There's just a huge breadth of stuff out there that we were able to take advantage of that's on the campus. And you know, it wasn't just, okay, you come here, you go to B school. It's you come here and you learn what you think you need to get out of the program, and you can take advantage of the full resources of a major, massive research university.
All right, great. Well, Colin, I learned something new about you today, you and Stephanie as well. But kind of to stay on that topic about the flexibility and even just kind of, you know, ways that students can really contribute to the community, whether it's through clubs or organizations. Can you maybe speak a little bit more on, you know, maybe things that you were involved in here at Johnson, and really how Johnson really prepares a student to be a leader? Stephanie, I'll start with you on that question.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that comes to my mind was the Johnson Leadership Fellow experience that I did my second year. So in the spring of your first year, you can be nominated, and correct me if any of this has changed, Eddie, or if I'm misremembering. You can be nominated to become a Johnson Leadership Fellow, which is essentially a mentor to a core group of first years, because that core group experience can come with a range of challenges and opportunities and highs and lows. And that mentor is in a place to kind of help the group surf those waves. And that was a really great experience. I look back on that and in some ways cringe because I made 1,000 mistakes. And that was the place to make those mistakes. As I graduated and got my own team, it was really nice to be able to reflect on the things that I was taught. That experience comes hand in hand with a 3-credit class where you're taught, specific like techniques that you can then put into practice, which is a really unique experience. Like if you think about it, normally in the business world, right, you might be given a team like, congratulations, you've been promoted. Now you have a team of 5. Well, now it's up to you to kind of figure it out as you go, and you might make mistakes, and maybe you read a book or 2 on the side, but to be able to have like both hand in hand, like both the classroom education go hand in hand with like the opportunity to put it into practice and then do it wrong, and then try and get better as I went, was really invaluable. So that's just one of the first things that comes to my mind.
Yeah, I think that particularly in your first year, it's impossible to not be involved. There are so many things. And one of the things everybody tells you is like, pump the brakes, don't get FOMO. You're going to try to do everything because everything seems amazing. And you have opportunities to do all these things, especially as you're thinking about recruiting for your internships, all those kind of things. You're going to be very involved in everything. You're going to wonder how you did so much. But in your second year, I think there's a lot more in terms of leadership. So, if you were in a club, so Stephanie was recruiting for marketing, there is a club specifically for people going through marketing. And then the second year is really step into help. For me personally, some of the things I did BR Ventures, the Big Red Ventures venture fund, my first year, helped as one of the portfolio managers the second year, which is a great way to really step into a role, help the first years understand what the process is, and then actually take on some real responsibility for your money. I was in the investment management club. I had very specific responsibility over the stock pitch competitions, including selecting teams, helping set up and run the stock pitch competition at Cornell, and then actually helping coach the teams that we set up to help them be successful. And thankfully they were successful. And using that coaching experience was extremely positive for me, because you can't be good in my business without helping people be good and therefore be able to help you. So there's a lot of learning through that kind of thing. Again, with recruiting, there's career work groups. When you first show up, you'll be put into a small pod. And again, if you're want to do a marketing job, you'll be put in a pod of, 5 or 6 people, and you'll have 2 or 3 second years helping you navigate that. And so, you can volunteer your second year to be the people helping navigate that. There's opportunities to be TAs in various classes, particularly some of the hard classes. The TAs get leaned on extremely heavily. I remember our core finance TAs seemed like they didn't ever get to leave stage. So there's a ton, just because of the way that Cornell sets things up, that as a second year, you have an opportunity and, to some extent, an expectation to give back, to help the first years. And that's a really strong opportunity for you to pick up some leadership skills and to, really try things out.
Great. Thank you both for sharing that. And of course, I know that there's so much throughout your experience, whether it's been the support of your classmates, once again, I know that a lot of MBAs have a lot of ups and down moments, but one, I think with our community here at Johnson, we're so supportive, whether it's your classmates, whether it's leadership, and so on and so forth. But we do want our students to walk away as strong leaders, and once again, there's so many different opportunities out there. But I do want to maybe touch upon our leadership here and kind of talking about your experience interacting with faculty, interacting with the deans, and what does that look like? And I think that's really important for candidates to know, as they are really identifying schools that have really identified ways of being progressive and to really be able to lead the school in a good direction. But Can you talk about maybe just your interactions with faculty, leadership, career management center, and what was that like? So Colin, I'll hand that one over to you. Or Stephanie, I see you unmuted yourself first.
Well, Colin, you're welcome to take it away. I was just going to say, you know, we each only had one MBA experience, so it's hard to know how much of this is differentiated at Johnson. But I would say that I can't imagine a school having giving their students more access to faculty than Johnson did. Like it felt like you could go and get help from any faculty member at any time. We had dinner at faculty members' houses on multiple occasions. Does Sage Social still exist, Eddie, or do we call it something else? Okay.
It does.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So on Thursdays, there was an opportunity to get free drinks and the faculty would join there. And right, like it felt like you could have a really informal relationship with faculty, deans, administrators, you know, crack jokes and ask real questions. There wasn't a high degree of formality or you would never feel like, oh man, I don't want to ask this question because who knows what they'll say. Like that was not the environment we were in. Same with the Career Center. And I have many memories of multiple professors staying late with me for like one-on-one coaching, all kinds of opportunities that I'm not sure would have existed at a bigger school. And especially for me coming from a background where like I had never taken any econ class before, like a lot of that curriculum, particularly in first year, was really overwhelming for me. Colin may remember, he could do it all in his sleep. And I was like just freaking out. And there were so many opportunities, either with TAs or faculty or deans, to get additional help and not feel like that was problematic, but just expected and normal and part of building relationships with people that I really valued. And I will say I did not get in my own undergraduate experience. So.
Yeah, I'll add on to that and say they're just, faculty is extremely accessible across all levels. They're very involved in everything, you know, whether it's helping extra in the classroom, or Eddie was in my video for Follies, and it would have been terrible without him. So he also went and did the Rulof's Burger Challenge with me and 3 other students. So there's a ton of accessibility all across the board, from the top to the bottom, and it goes a long way. There are professors who care so much that they will call their personal networks to get you a job when you don't have one. Stephanie and I have a classmate who applied for one internship, had a really, really poor interview experience, and then just gave up all hope. And Mark Milstein got him an internship. Just was like, you're a good student, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're doing. Clearly you don't have the confidence to do this right, and you've kind of missed the window. I'm going to take care of it. And Mark Milstein stepped up and got him that. Rich Marin, who was the CEO of Bear Stearns Asset Management Company before all that trouble, is a professor at the school. And if he thinks you have a bright idea, he will call people and set up investors to try to put money into any idea you have. Like, these people genuinely care about your success. There are people I still talk to today. Maureen O'Hara is an incredible resource at the school, and she's, you can look her up, but she's academically an all-star, but professionally she's on the board at like TIAA CREF, and she is completely accessible. I emailed her like 2 days ago. So it doesn't stop when you leave either. I think that the faculty really cares. The faculty is very accessible, and the faculty is there to have fun too. I mean, unfortunately, one of our favorite people, Jerry, passed away, but Jerry, he was one of the people who led leadership programs, and he was just fun to be around. He would just show up randomly at bowling. There's no rhyme or reason. Everybody's part of the community. Everybody's around, and everybody's accessible and wants you to succeed.
Great, thank you. I have a couple more questions, and of course we will get to the questions in the chat itself. But what would you, kind of more of a fun question, but is there a fun moment that sticks out in your mind throughout your MBA journey? So whether it was, something within the class, whether it was an international trip, right? Whether it was just a favorite moment, but anything that you can think of that is that you're willing to share.
Yeah, I don't have like one big moment. As Stephanie said, there were a lot of little things where you just, Thursday at Sage Social, everybody pull out the kegs and wine at like 4:15, and then everybody go to dinner and be at the bars until like 11 o'clock at night. So there was just a lot of social interaction. And for me, the things that I really remember are not necessarily like big things. They're much smaller, much more personal social interactions. Like we do this thing, the university-wide, it's called Slope Day. I remember the second year we had Chance the Rapper, and I know that I was there. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember eating Thai food with Stephanie and her husband Lawrence at their house at like 9 o'clock at night after Slope Day. It's little interactions that being part of this small campus forces you to do. I guess I'm probably supposed to say something like, oh, when we finished the, big, case study at the end of core, or, doing something that, but no, it's those small social interactions that stick out. One thing that's kind of a funny story is after our core marketing exam, which everybody thought was going to be one of the easier exams, everybody walked out and just felt like they just got kicked to death. It was incredibly taxing, even for people with like pre-existing marketing backgrounds. And suddenly there were like 55 cases of beer just sitting in the atrium, and nobody knew where they came from, but everybody was drinking them because everybody just got through a really rough day. And there's just camaraderie that builds off that. And that's just how Cornell is.
Yay. I second that. I have the same, like when I think of my Cornell memories, a lot of them are like, I don't know, we would like take over a classroom, like a group of us would take over a classroom and study until like 2 o'clock in the morning for the finance exam the next day. And then we'd be like, all right, time to walk home. Or should we go to a bar really quick and just get a beer because it would make us feel better? You know what I mean? Like those kinds of moments where when you should go home and sleep and you don't, and instead you choose to like have that moment with your friends. Like those are the moments that I remember that always stay with you. And I have 1,000 of those. One cool thing about Cornell is because it's such a beautiful campus, there are all these cool little nooks and crannies and beautiful old buildings that are actually undergrad buildings that you can go and study in. And I have so many memories of like being in one of those dining halls and meeting up with my like crew so that we could study together and try and muddle through, get that B that I needed.
You're talking about Willard Straight.
That is what I am talking about. Thank you. Thank you, memory holder. Yes, Willard Straight. Those were the days. They had the best food.
And which is right across from Sage, by the way. So like the best food on campus is
nearby.
Minute and a half walk. But one of the things I'd say when we all graduated, there was this huge sentiment of like, I miss being there because I miss having 50 of my best friends within short walking distance. That there was just a very strong group of people. You always had something fun to do. Even being somebody who's introverted, it was always fun to go do those kinds of things and be a part of the community. I guess I'm supposed to talk about how important class was and all that kind of stuff. But I think the community aspect of Cornell is just a really incredible part of the experience.
Great. And that's one of the things that you will learn as you go on this journey of applying and getting to know us. Like there is a true sense of family here at Johnson. And that's one of the things that I love most about my job and the work that I do. I see it within my own team here in admissions, but also just the relationships that we all establish, throughout time, and, the stories that we all have, and memories that we can continue to make are something that, is really valuable here. And as you can probably see from the dynamics between Stephanie and Colin, great friends, great memories, and that's something that we really pride ourselves on. Last question before we get into questions for you. Any piece of advice that you have for our, prospective candidates as they go through this journey and think about an MBA?
Good question.
Thinking hard.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when I was applying to business school, I didn't know anybody who had gone to business school. Like I said MBA to my parents and they said, what does that stand for? And I think the process was quite foreign to me, and it was unclear to me how much I could like reach out to current students and the admissions office and like what I was supposed to say and what I wasn't. And then I got there and I realized that like, oh, people were really engaged with the admissions staff and like had talked to students. And I think don't overlook those opportunities to get a sense of what the community is like, because you will start to hear the pattern and like the community aspect we're talking about, right? Like there will be elements of this that you will start to recognize as you have those conversations with current students. And it's not cheating to have those conversations. I think I felt almost a sense of like, I should probably keep my distance because we want the process to be fair. And it's still fair because you're getting the information that you need. And I really late in the game took the opportunity to let the admissions office know that my husband was actually applying on the undergrad side. While he's the same age as me, he needed to finish his undergraduate degree, and so was applying to the same schools as I was to finish his bachelor's degree. And I told them, and they're like, oh, like we can let the admissions office know that so that they're aware that you guys have this relationship. And, and it was like, oh, I hadn't even occurred to me that I should be sharing that. So I would just say like, feel free to be open with the admissions staff, especially if you have family, if you have concerns about that stuff, like will go out of their way to help you if they feel like you're a good fit and it's a great opportunity for you. Like they can help make your life easier through this process. So that would be my advice. Don't be me. Yeah,
that's great advice. I wish somebody had given me that advice actually. And I would add on to that. During my interview, I told Eddie I have this really untimely update. He's just like, oh, I love updates. So if you have updates, send them to Eddie. He loves it. But my piece of advice would be just do it. You won't regret it. Just do it.
Great. Well, first of all, I just want to personally thank both you, Colin, and Stephanie for joining on this call. I know that we could probably keep going and talk more and reminisce about your time here. But of course, really appreciate everything that you do, and of course for being on this call. I know that there are some questions that are in the Q&A, so we are going to just spend a few minutes answering those questions.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Well, let us start with the questions related to the admissions process, because they're kind of straightforward. So the first one is whether there is an opportunity for an application fee waiver. And the other one is what should the applicants who are waitlisted do? Like, is there something they can do in order to bring more clarity to their application?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going to put in our events page link in the chat. So with our process for an application fee waiver, we do encourage candidates to attend one of our Ask Admission sessions, which we actually have an Ask Admission session today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So by attending one of those sessions in particular is how a candidate can be granted an application fee waiver. What I will say though is that on the back end with Zoom, We do monitor how much time and as well as interaction that there may be. So if you are someone who's just looking to log on for a couple minutes and really not sit through, please know those candidates will not be considered for the waiver. But once again, ask admissions, and we have ask admission sessions even into the spring semester as well. For those that may be on the wait list, what I will say is, one, being on the wait list, it is not a bad thing itself. And I know that that's not the ideal decision that you're looking for, but it typically will mean that, one, that there may be things within your application that we want to see more of, and also looking at the strength of the applicant pool so far, I can tell you that it has been a competitive year. While on the wait list, what I would say is really do some self-reflecting and go back and look at your application. Identify what those strengths are, but then those areas of improvements, whether it is a standardized test, whether it is really thinking about clarifying your goals, whether it's just reiterating your interests or getting another letter of recommendation. I would say really just kind of think about ways that you can improve your candidacy. Once again, even if it's just reiterating your overall interests. Also on this link that I sent, there is a waitlist webinar on January 12th, and that will be at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I would encourage you to sit through that, but also provide any updates, once again, regarding that candidacy to show that, once again, you are really working hard while on the wait list.
Thank you, Eddie. One more question to you. Could you please elaborate a little bit more between the differences and similarities between the full-time MBA and the Tech MBA?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the Tech MBA itself, as I had mentioned before, I represent our 1 year and our 2 year MBA program here in Ithaca, but there is a 1 year MBA program. It's our Cornell Tech MBA program located in New York City on Roosevelt Island. Of course, with the full-time programs itself in Ithaca, once again, not only are you going to get that opportunity to really be able to understand like the basic business fundamentals, but our program here in Ithaca are going to give you 2 additional things. One, it's going to give you also that opportunity to really be able to expand your knowledge and experience focusing on leadership, but also the programs in Ithaca in particular give you the opportunity of really having that flexibility to really be able to tap into other programs here at Cornell. Cornell Tech in particular really focuses on candidates who are looking to bridge the gap between business as well as the digital economy. So with our 1 year Cornell Tech program, what they are looking for are students who are coming from a tech background. If you're someone who's looking to make a career switch in tech, this program is not for you. But if you have experience within the tech industry, and once again, looking to bridge that gap between business, digital economy, maybe you're an entrepreneur in this space, that 1 year MBA is a strictly tech-focused MBA itself. The one thing though I will say about Cornell Tech, they do spend their summer and their core in Ithaca with our 1 year residential students. So they spend their time from May to around the middle of August in Ithaca, and then the fall and the spring, they return to New York City. So if you do have additional questions, feel free to reach out to me directly so that I can elaborate further.
Thanks, Eddie. And we have one question to Colin and Stephanie. If you can recall, which were your favorite classes?
You go first, Colin.
So I mentioned Rich Marin earlier. He ran a series of classes called the Alpha Series, and sitting through those and listening to him talk about things. I've been working in hedge funds for a while, and he was talking about things I've never even heard or thought of on the operational side, and how you can squeeze alpha out of the operational side, not just out of making better investments. Things that you just never ever think about. But you have this guy who's built a career in practice doing these things. brings a wealth of experience that just opens your eyes to things that I think most people in my industry still are not aware of.
And I took a speech class, which I don't remember the formal name of. Maybe Eddie can help me. That was quite difficult to get into because it's highly sought after. And it's one of those things, you're taking your medicine. Nobody wants to like stand up in front of their colleague or their peers at school and like give speeches and get feedback. But it gave me a ton of self-confidence. Post business school. And then I would also just say the marketing immersion was incredibly helpful. Pre-internship, when I had never worked in a like formal business environment, I had never scheduled a meeting via Outlook when I did my my internship. And so having that marketing immersion beforehand, it was like doing the internship with my peers and doing like a project exactly like my internship. And then I got to go and do my project at my internship. And it felt like I had already had a dry run and I had it handled, still had to figure out how to use Outlook, but like I was one of the top performing interns in my class. And I cannot imagine that would have been true if I hadn't had that marketing immersion beforehand, especially given that my skill set, my experience, I should say, was like just completely outside of what I wanted to do. So it was really great to have that and be able to lean on it.
Thanks, Colin and Stephanie. One more question to you both. Have you been part of the global learning experience? And if so, how were you able to really expand your cultural horizons through it? I saw that Colin already replied, but maybe just say with a few words.
Sure. I think I said most of it in my text response, but neither Stephanie or I studied abroad, but we had a lot of people studying abroad on Cornell's campus. Just given the closeness with Cornell, it's hard for those people not to be an integrated part of the community, to bring their perspectives, to share those. And, the experience in the classroom is very much the same. It's a very interactive classroom experience. You're expected to be interactive, engaged, to be sharing, and they were very much expected to do that as well. We did have several classmates who studied abroad. We had a large cadre that ended up in Barcelona, and I actually went to Barcelona for a couple of weeks to hang out with them because I finished school about 2 months early, like half a semester early. So went over and spent some time with them. It was very clear that they had become very integrated with the business school there as well. So I don't think either of us can really speak to that specifically, but I do know that the folks who did the international studies were just extremely happy with their experience, extremely happy with the programs, and would have done it twice if they had the opportunity.
Steph, do you have something to add?
No, said
No?
perfectly.
Cool. Great. And one, probably because we're running out of time, this would be the last question. Colin mentioned that there are some different clubs in the university, like the marketing club, investment management club. What kind of other clubs are there? And especially, for instance, is there a female leadership, women support club?
Yes, there is definitely one of those, if not multiple. And that, like, there are lots of opportunities to lead on that subject. For example, as a Park Leadership Fellow, I did a leadership project with another peer on trying to, like, I would say, increase the opportunities that female classmates had, particularly as they were interviewing, and make sure that they got the coaching that they needed to perform as well as, if not better than, their male colleagues. There were a ton of opportunities in that, on that specific subject. And then, I mean, there are just so many clubs. It's like everything under the sun. Things that come to mind are beer club. I think there was a wine club also, because why not have both?
Unfortunately, they were at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. It was always Sophie's choice. Which one do you go to? Yeah, I mean, everything, and there are just clubs on every topic. Colin can probably remember with greater clarity than I can. I was particularly involved in the marketing club.
One thing I'd throw in is that Cornell has very specific events: JWIB, JWIT, Johnson Women in Business, Johnson Women in Tech, that are very much geared towards providing opportunity for women and making sure that they have a place at the table. I think that's important. Yeah, as Stephanie said, there's clubs for everything. Whatever sport you're interested in, whatever hobby, whatever, anything. There's a club for if you're bringing a spouse with you or a significant other. Stephanie's husband was actually in charge of that at one point, and begged my wife to join, and she said, no, it's too cold. I'm going back to North Carolina. But there's a ton of stuff. And like I said earlier, there's so many things that you're going to have a hard time figuring out how to do it all.
Yeah, so you definitely have the opportunity to find your place in Cornell's community. Well, there were just a few questions that we weren't able to answer, but I will forward them to Eddie with the emails of the persons who asked them. So we'll make sure to cover them. I would like to thank all of you for participating. I hope that we have managed to help our attendees make the decision to study in Cornell. And just a quick reminder, if you already made the decision, and if you're ready with your resume and the documents, don't forget that the deadline for the next intake is 5th of January. I'm wishing you all a nice day, and I hope to see you soon. Good luck and all the best.